Welcome, one and all, to another episode of Rejuvelation. Today is March 16th, 2018. I am your host, Daniel Maddox, and today on the show, I am going to be speaking with Sonia Barrett, who is a podcaster, author, and lecturer. So, you've done The Holographic Universe, The Fusing of the Mind and Matter, right?
It's called a holographic canvas.
Oh,
The holographic canvas, the fusing of mind and matter.
all right.
There's the holographic universe, though. There is a book. Michael Talbot, I think.
Excuse me then.
That's okay. That's okay.
So, would you like to introduce yourself to our guests?
Well, other than I'm Sonia, just what he said, the author of a few books, The Holographic Canvas, The Fusing of Mind and Matter, and A Journey of Possibilities, Health and Inside Job, and my fourth book, Simple Ways to Step Outside of Your Comfort Zone, Letting Go of an Outdated Life. And basically that's sort of that. I present a lot of, I guess, lectures, workshops, and so many things, Lots of YouTube videos are there also, but it's around what I do, my work, which has everything to do with understanding reality, the concept of reality at a deeper level. And I guess I was known for speaking about, the programming by which we operate. So I think that might give a bit of insight.
Okay. Yeah, so we met at the Truth Mind Reality Conference in Phoenix, Arizona last weekend, and I had a great time there. It was wonderful meeting everybody, especially you and Mark Passio and Mark Devlin. There were so many great speakers. It was a really pleasurable, short but sweet event, I think.
Yes, it was.
So how did you get in touch with Ivan? Were you brought in by one of the other speakers, or did he contact you personally?
No, Ivan contacted me some time ago.
Nice.
Yeah. That's I guess, yeah. Well, he knew about my work for some time, for a few years, and I've also done the Free Your Mind conference with Mark.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I had a question here. What's the most practical way to go about breaking out of the matrix or constructs of social governing systems? You've talked about that a lot in your work and how it's all a big program. So I wanted to talk about what you think is the most practical way to just break out of those matrices and out of those control systems.
Well, that's kind of, it's one of those things where it's not really a step one, a step two type thing. And I know that people tend to like to hear steps and what specifically to do. But what I say is this. First of all, it is not about escaping. I always say that. Escaping always represents fear and running from something, but it's rather generally about transcending an experience, growing and expanding beyond a particular experience. When we talk about the matrix, the idea of the matrix, which is generally based on limitations. People feel very limited and oppressed. That's what they're talking about when they refer to the matrix. There's always a sense of oppression. The first thing that one has to do is one has to ask deep questions of themselves. You have to look at what it is that you think you believe. What do you know? The truth of what you know, what you believe, where you are right now in your life. I think you have to stop and do that first. I think taking an honest look at yourself is always the first part of it. It just doesn't matter. There is no shortcut. That from where I sit anyway, from what I've seen, there really is no shortcut, because many times people have a sense that they're moving forward and they're doing all of these amazing things, but ultimately, who you really believe that you are, and those core programs are there in your subconscious mind running your choices and all of that. You also need to have to look at your belief, your the limitations of your belief system, and I think that is one that many people tend to be hooked into. Meaning, when I say that, what I mean is that we tend to have a some finite conclusions about what we think reality is or what it can't be. And I think that that becomes very important, because you are putting a limitation on what you will allow um, this experience to show you. And so therefore we tend to construct comfortable ideas, and then we stay there because people are looking for some, I think, some certainties, something comfortable, something that you can sink your teeth into. And so I that is something that I think is very important factor to look at for people that say, well, that's not possible, or no, the world or reality has to be this way. Even scientists that do the same thing, and we need to understand that this experience, we don't know what to really call it, but we call it reality. And this experience is so much more than can be put in a box. Yet the beauty of this experience is also is that it will allow you to put it in a box, and that's really just sort of an illusion of having it in a box. And so it's so pliable in allowing everybody to be where they are in their understanding and then grow from there. So those to me are things that one has to be able to come into an understanding about, and then look at where you are, and then look at what you're willing to surrender and move forward into.
I totally agree. It's, until we really know what we are, who we are, there's no hope of real change, because it's all superficial, artificial anyways. And it's like, you know, when people live their whole lives under one program or another, and they think it's all good, for them to ever really break free of any of these control systems, they have to know how they were manipulated and how they came to be the people that they are now. Because I guarantee you, most of the people walking the earth right now, they're not, anywhere close to their truest self. They're such copies of copies. They're all stormtroopers. It's the same person under the mask, and people are becoming more and more collectivized and polarized, and all these extreme oppositions set into the mindset and the generalized programming of the planet. So
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt a sort of Borg mentality, a Borg mind, and that is in many different ways. Even covering what was is looked at as even the New Age movement or conspiracy movement, or sovereign movement. They all come with their own unique set of limitations, and people become stuck in each, many of these pockets. Yet the reason why they're there is because they're hungry to discover more about who they are, what they are, and people are even beyond that. People are hungry for freedom, for the sense of freedom. So everybody is under this sense of sort of enslavement to something, this sort of oppression, that you can't just do things, something or someone, whether it be on this planet or outside of this planet. There's always this sense of something or someone is bigger or controlling what you can and cannot do. And so because of that, people get caught in these different pockets of that were originally designed to, in their minds anyway, to help them to find their way out from under.
I have a quote here from your website, I believe it was. It's by Geoffrey F. Albert, and it says, "When you take charge of your life, there is no longer need to ask permission of other people or society at large. When you ask permission, you give someone veto power over your life." And I think that's basically what we're talking about in all respects. If
Mm-hmm.
you really take charge of your life and be responsible for yourself, truly be responsible for everything that you do and think, and feel, then that's when you get all the power that you need within yourself, and you can move forward both spiritually, emotionally, and then everything else in your life can fall into place. But until you've really taken possession of your own destiny, you're always going to be asking permission inevitably from someone else to do anything. And I think that's the ultimate program that really controls us all, is having to ask permission just to live, just to think.
Right, absolutely. Which is why government works so well, religion works so well. It all sort of comes under this umbrella of control or of something or someone else, knowing what's best for you. That is a big program that you're sort of delivered. I think once you get here on the planet, is that you're not in control. Someone else has your best interest at heart, and that's where the systems come into place. They tell you what your ground rules are, what your boundaries are, what you can and cannot do, and religion does the same thing too. And so people have a savior program as well. So because of this, people are programmed to look and hope for someone to come and save them, from all kinds of, whether it be from on the religious front, or whether it be on the political or governmental stage. And the system is designed where it gets people to fight, actually, to yeah, to fight, to pick their controllers. You get the sense of you're choosing, but you're really choosing who's going to run the matrix here in this this reality, this level of reality. That's kind of basically what you're doing. So you get to choose who is going to look out for you, meaning who's going to make the decisions for you, what's best for you, what's best for your family, and what your boundaries are, what your limitations are. And again, religion does the same thing. You have to, the minister or the priest or whoever it is always the go between. And we see that with gurus as well. We see, it's a program that runs rampant, where human beings just don't feel capable of making decisions for themselves, on what would be considered big decisions, or running their own lives. People have smoke and mirrors. Basically, it's of running their lives. But all of this is again is set up in such a way that one can think that one is making authentic choices and running your own life per se, but you're doing all of this based on embedded programs.
Yeah.
So, it's a real tricky setup.
The way I look at it is it's like squares within squares within squares, where each level of the game brings on more of it, but it's a replication of itself. It's just trying to take
It is.
control
It's
and
it.
to limit.
Yeah, it is. It's the matrix and a matrix and a matrix, um, on different levels of this, and it's all contingent on people asking deep questions, people not being afraid to go there, like really question everything, and not just be comfortable with outdated conclusions, even by science. You have to. This is how this game is designed. The only way you transcend this game is to ask the right questions. And you can't ask those questions if you are not open to asking those questions. If you only want to stay within a comfortable framework of information, then you will just still be a part of that limited and limiting matrix structure that makes you think that you are heading somewhere, but in essence you're just looping around over and over. It's it is quite an intelligent experience game. It's great.
Yeah, I just got a good visual of it. It's just like there are coils of let's say matrices, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
the longer that they can get you to stay in that coil and going around and around them, that's more energy that you generate for the system that they placed you in. And it's a system that it has to limit you, because if you're going to be free, then you're not going to be running the treadmill just the way that they want you to, need you to perpetuate their schemes and to perpetuate the whole control system on an even greater level.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if everybody, as they say, woke up, then the game would change. It wouldn't be this game. And so we need to also, I like to remind people that this game, as we've been talking about it, has been essential. So let us not forget that this was necessary. And somebody might say, well, why was it necessary? Why did we have to? Well, if this is about being everything, then that includes everything. You know, it what kind of reality experience would it be if everything, if you were limited technically on a bigger scale, if you were limited to only one particular belief system, one particular set of information, no waking up, no choosing whatsoever. You're told that you cannot do this, you cannot have those experiences, you can only have these. And to some degree it is somewhat like that. But outside of that structure, is what I'm saying, is when you look at creation itself, the fact that everything happens and everything is allowed, that simply means that that is allowed here on this smaller matrix, that, you know, of our world here as well. And so we have to take that deeper look, so that it's not just this constant them against us. Sure, there is a them against us, meaning those who uphold the conditions that will keep the game going as it is, and those who feel caught under that oppressive, those oppressive actions. So we step back and we examine this, and we see that this is why it is happening. However, I have the opportunity always to awaken, to transcend beyond that. But don't spend your time on what they've done to you, what they, because you are the they. On a much bigger scale, you are the they. And that, for me, it was very freeing to recognize that. Otherwise, you just get lost in the fight all the time. This is a war planet. This planet is about opposition and war. And so that the more of that you do, is the more you actually feed into it, because that's what it understands. That's how it works, is about that.
Do you believe? How do you believe that this planet became to be that way? Like, why is this all happening here? Does this happen everywhere in the universe? Is it a special situation to us?
No, because, you know, I guess we have to look at why. You know, when we say why is this happening to us, it's like what exactly is happening to us? We're just experiencing. And I think, you know, I come from a different angle, you know, than most. And I used to come from some of the other angles until I started to understand and see this on a much bigger scale. But, you know, I go, so, you know, what is happening to us? It's everybody, better or for worse, as we say, is an experiencer. And you're here experiencing. And this planet that is for what we call human beings, the human experience means any and everything that that a human being could experience. Maybe you and I may not experience everything, but somebody is going to experience the most extreme things that we cannot even think of, because that's what this perception or this version of reality calls for. There's, this is so much bigger. There's so many pockets and so many layers. This, as they say, the spaces between the spaces. There's our consciousness, our focus is just on a one particular perception and version of reality. So because of that, the only reference point we have is this. And so it's very hard to picture anything that is beyond this particular experience. And so, yeah, to say, well, is it happening other places? Creation is about any and everything, all possibilities, much of which we cannot even conceive of because we have no reference point in our brains, in our minds on this level. When we're operating from our human level, you can't conceive of what could possibly be, what other reflections or what other experiences are possible in the idea of existence. So we're just talking about in our one little pocket of potential that just seems like, it's everything, but it's not. It's just one pocket. And this is a game, and this human game is about coming in and experiencing according to what your journey is. And for those who manage to to discover, and in a way hack the game, in a way, yes, break through your own mind, and hack the game and transcend out of this game, maybe into a different version of reality, a possibility. I hope that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. No, I like it very much. It's for me, I love mentalizing all these things, or intellectualizing them, and on a more personal level, I'd like to more put them into a practical application into the real life. So you do workshops and stuff in that same vein, do you not?
Yes, I do they're very cutting edge workshops, which you can, a lot of them you can see, because everything I do, it's been recorded, and I've done that, whether it be recording it or videoing it. I did that because I don't do the same workshop twice. As I grow, my work evolves with it. So it's there for people who are coming, and that's wherever they are, there is something there, that they can be part of. They can download, they can, buy a particular workshop that might work for them. If they go on my website, there's lots and lots and lots and lots of workshops over the last 10 years. And so it's all there, and it just gets progressive, and deeper and deeper and deeper. So yes, some people will need to have watched or maybe listen to certain workshops in order to maybe listen to another workshop that might have a different kind of evolution to them. But I've done 6 months. When I say 6 months workshops, means that we meet for once a month and for 6 months, and there's several of those workshops where I've done it that way. And we do that because it allows people to process and to utilize what we've done, what we talked about for the 2.5 hours or so of the once a month workshop. And you get to hear from other people as well and their experiences. And then the next month they come back, and there's something new that now I'm providing and incorporating, and you get to hear other people's results from their experience from from last month of what we talked about and what we discovered. And so I find that to be a really great way, because people don't feel like they got all this information and then they're left alone. But you know that, wow, okay, next month I get to come back. I get to put it into use, and I'm all about really putting into use what you've learned or what you've discovered in a workshop, as opposed to just packing it away and not using it.
Yeah, if you don't use it, you'll lose it for sure. And
Yeah.
when it comes to the consciousness, especially because it's the most powerful thing you have, your imagination
Mhm.
and your consciousness. So when you don't use them and you let them atrophy, your whole life will suffer at profound
Right.
ways. And I think a lot of people just give in to the ease of the program that says, "Don't worry about these things. Don't think about these things. They're not. It isn't going to help you. It's not going to help anybody. Just stay inside." It's like a siren or a succubus or
Mm.
something wooing you to sleep, and like a vampire just wanting to ease your mind before it takes you and down the dark primrose path. And I think that that's where most of the people are on the planet, is they, even though they have access to all this information and there's all these books, there's all these publications about a much bigger system, a much bigger thing happening in the world, and there's being so much that we're losing touch of because we're getting lost in the technological haze. Um, so
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I firmly believe that people awaken, what we've defined as awaken anyway, that people awaken in their time. And I think that what we do is, like, maybe shows like yours, like what you're doing with your podcast and the various conferences. I think that we have to look at this as you open a door, so you have that door open, so that those, like, people, when they're ready, they can walk through it, and they receive the information, or receive what they need to help to nurture their exploration and their expansion. But certainly, people are being what they need to be right now, and I know that's a tough one for us, because we do want to see everybody wake up and change or whatever, but that's not the nature of things. That is not what is supposed to happen, apparently, because it's not happening. I'll tell you, it's like that simple. It's not happening because that's not what's happening. So I like to keep it simple.
yeah,
So, so for each person, people get triggered when they get ready to. There are many people, even in some of these movements. Again, as I mentioned before, they only want to focus on one particular aspect of the movement, whether it be a fight or whether it be a new age concept that feels good, and they just want to lock in on that. And they do feel that they're very aware and awake and conscious, and yet in 2 minutes later, hearing the things that they say, you go, okay. So so it's really interesting, and it is that allowing too, though. When we find that, for those people who are able to really see things that way, to have a more transparent look at those kinds of beings, um, we also have to realize that we have to be allowing, and be diplomatic in what we interject when we interject. I don't debate people. I don't try to convince people. I will have conversations, and depending on what how open you are, or what the conversation is about, or what you ask me, then I'll go there. But I'm not going to try to debate or fight you on what you believe, because that doesn't work, because they're not hearing you. People are busy wanting to defend their opinion. So you allow, and I don't you don't know, and I don't know if that is that person's journey in that moment, to rise to this whole other level of understanding. Maybe tomorrow, could be, maybe next week, maybe not at all in this particular time. And that's something that we have, I guess, people also grapple with. They have a hard time with, because we think everybody should just, like, just wake up to this. Well, no, that's like saying, in this game perception of the game anyway, that everybody is just going to be wealthy or everybody is just going to be poor. The reason why you can even use those words is because you have to have some sort of opposite effect in order for the other to exist. If everybody was on the same level, there would be no experiencing of what it is to be what we define as monetarily wealthy, or what it is to be severely poor, or the in between. You would have no way to experience that, and you're an experiencer. So we have to step back and realize that because we are experiencers, many of these things are happening so that these experiences can happen. Creation has to be everything. So in order to be everything, the experience must be had. And so that is why you do the experiencing, because you have these sensory systems, these bodies that are sensory systems that process, your experiences, and you get to feel and have emotions and so on and so forth. So it's a matter of being able to look at the bigger picture as opposed to just the, oh my God, this is what's going on, and this is what's happening to us right now. You have to be able to step back and look at the bigger picture and where you stand in it and what you can do. Because one person, you becoming aware, can, yes, have an unbelievable effect on what you experience, and of course the world that you will participate in. And that's it in a nutshell. There's much more, but that's sort of a condensed version.
So, do you consider it like a teaching the ancient mysteries kind of deal? Like, those who are ready, the information will be made available, and certain things, like, not everybody's ready to wake up. Not everybody is at that point. You don't think that it's like such an important deal that we have to
No,
inform
I
people?
don't. Oh no, I think that if you feel the need to inform people, I think that's what you should do. That's what I tell everybody. Whatever you feel like doing, you do it. If you feel like you need to get out there and stand on the corner and use a, what do you call it?
Bullhorn.
Bullhorn, then that's what you need to do. Otherwise, you wouldn't feel like you need to do it. I, however, don't feel like you need to do that. But everything that we feel, we must acknowledge that and we must honor that. And that's basically how that goes. Now, in terms of what you expect, in terms of this feeling that all these people need to wake up and all these people need everything that you're saying, you don't really know that. You see, we don't really know that, and everybody is awakened. I don't even use the word awakened anymore, but everybody is aware at different levels. Everybody has an awareness at different levels, and I am expanding more and more into greater levels of awareness. Dare I think that I am fully aware, because I don't know that there is such a thing, because this experience has no limits to it. There's no bottom on this. There is just endless levels of possibilities of what I can potentially experience beyond this idea of being human. That I know is that there is so much more. This is not the only game in town. And there is so much more. But my understanding of, the more I understand about this human experience, and my need to not hate it or be angry at it, but to understand it, the more that I can do that, the more I lighten my own self, and the more I release the the programs and my being wired into all these programs, the more that I am able to do that, as opposed to doing the very thing that is required in order to keep me hooked up to the programs.
Mm. So, you talk a lot about physics and quantum physics in your book, and but you weren't trained professionally in this capacity. You came upon it in your own way. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Um, yes, I wasn't, but again, this is what happens when I went in question of this after my life, after crazy things happened in my life, and I in 1992 just decided that I just needed to understand more about my life, what I had lived, um, and just the overall idea of existence. What is it? What is it? And I set out to understand it. And at the time, yes, without gurus or workshops or books, simply because I didn't know that any such thing existed per se. Other than reading Shirley MacLaine Out on a Limb, Dancing in the Light, and I read, I think, book 1 or 2 of Masters of the Far East. I went through the Bible and again, and I just thought, okay, you know what? I really feel that there is a way to know and to understand beyond this experience. There is a way, and I just wanted to experiment with myself with tapping into that, um, just in a raw fashion. And so that's basically what I did. I put away all that stuff and I started to meditate. Again, I didn't know how to meditate. So I, on my own, just started to try to do this thing that I didn't know what I was doing. And ultimately, my desire was just so strong, yeah, that it showed itself to me, and I started to meditate on I guess, a much more profound level, where I started to see and understand, I guess, beyond this, sort of like the backdrop of reality, in terms of reality as we perceive or know it to be. And so that's kind of basically what happened. Then I spent like 10 years to myself. I would say technically from like 1992 till I would say 2000, till like 2000, yeah, more so on my own. And then I started to meet more people. I did meet some people during the 10 years. I have to say that were instrumental also in my life. People would dart in almost just to give me a clue and, be gone, because I just wanted to understand so strongly that I would just sort of surpass, where they were. First, when I met them, they had maybe information and it was wonderful for that moment. And then I just needed to keep going. And so that's what I did. And then in 2000, I put up the website, which was actually called Infinite Dance then. So my website, which is now, we finally changed it to therealsoniabarrett.com, has been around for almost 18 years, I guess. Yeah, it's been around, yeah, from the very beginnings. It wasn't this big, of course. It had just a few things, and I would write articles and so on. But during the 10 years, I started to get information. I would understand things, I guess, that were, considered more scientific, but I didn't know about quantum physics. I didn't really know about that realm, but I was writing information about all of this. And as I would go along, I would gradually get sort of directed to something that would confirm what I was understanding. And my understanding eventually grew strong enough where I was confident now in what I was accessing and what I was understanding. And that's kind of basically where it started. So now I encourage people, um, to realize that they have access to everything, that everything is made up of just streams of information, just pockets of information, data, which is pocket, quantum is pockets, packets of energy. And so, packets of something rather. And so, that's what I do. I encourage people to realize that you have the ability. It's nobody's more special than the other, but determination and drive, commitment, those things are what are required, I would say, to really break into yourself, to tap into yourself at a profound level.
Yeah, that sounds right. So, I have a question about the business of disease, this documentary that you were involved in. How did you get involved in it, and what made you focus on the business of disease itself, the pharmaceutical industries, the American Medical Association, and all that?
Well, believe it or not, even though it says the business of disease, it doesn't completely just focus on the pharmaceutical companies, but and the business aspect. We talk about that in the first part of the film. We have John Verapin, who was the ex general manager for Eli Lilly, who really kind of talked about, spilled the beans on the beginnings of Prozac and some of these drugs in the very beginning. But for me, I first came upon this, or decided to do this film, based on the Pink Ribbon, the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and the marketing. I felt that they were marketing disease more than anything, and I just kind of wondered what it was doing to our minds, now that, because our first language is symbols, and the pink ribbon has become a symbol, and you see pink, and and I've talked to other people, pink sort of, your mind automatically begins to go to a particular thought or concept now, because pink, is that color sort of got taken over that way. And so I wondered what that was doing to our minds. And so I think I knew people were starting to develop more fear. When they say breast cancer awareness, you could take that two different ways. The awareness that one could get it, and I think a lot of people ended up with that awareness, and how the mind interprets that, and how the body responds to much of this. That was sort of my question, and also the emotional aspect of our lives, the how that impacts our health, and how crucial that was. And then there's a lot of cutting edge health concepts in the film, including sound, which with Stephen Halpern, who is in the film, who talks about that sound technology in terms of health, and Sherry Edwards with vocal profiling, this new medicine of the future, where they're able to look at your vocal print, and your vocal print actually reads out what's going on in the body. It's a print of what
Wow.
goes on in the body.
Wow.
It is very fascinating. It really is. Trust me, it really, really, really is true that the vocal print shows that when they're able to read it, when you
I
learn how to
believe
read
it.
it. Yeah, because I took her 2-day class, and I've known about her for years, but you see why, and the assessment of what's going on in your body is pretty darn accurate. It is pretty, and it's predictive too. It can predict things that is brewing in your body, and
Wow.
yeah, and so we have people like that, and just so much. So yeah, so the film is edgy, um, as well. So yeah, that's how I arrived at that space.
Yeah, thank you for that. And on a more personal note for myself, at the Truth Mind Reality Conference, you told me that you had met before Dr. Sebi, who was a doctor who claimed to have healed many, many people, and was actually taken to court, and he proved it. and so they left him alone for a while. But then he just recently died in prison in Honduras in very bizarre circumstances. Um, can you tell me
Yeah.
a little bit about your experience with Dr. Sebi?
Well, I knew Dr. Sebi very well. I met him in the 90s, and him and his wife then, Ma'a. And what I can tell you is that, yes, these were things I saw with my own eyes because I was helping him, um, because I was learning as well. I was learning a lot of what I understand about health. I did learn from him and Ma'a. And so I saw tests. I saw people, yeah, people that had, that's true, HIV and or AIDS, and they came back and their reports were different. The medical report was different. I saw people with cancer, a couple people that were celebrities. One person in particular, their mother, and the diagnosis of cancer and what he put her on, the diet he put her on, and the herbs when they were, I mean, after several months, she came back in the report and it was gone. Now, they needed to maintain their diet, change their life, change your diet, change your lifestyle. But no, I saw this for myself. So what I know because I was there.
Nice. Well,
And are you able to hear me?
yeah, you just cut out for a second, but I think you're all right now.
I think I lost you.
Can you hear me?
Let me make sure that I don't hear you anymore.
Huh.
Huh.
I'll call back. Can you hear me?
Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
That is weird.
Can
My
you hear me?
speaker just like went out. I don't know what the deal is. My audio is on.
Can you hear me now?
I'm going to pull my mic out just for the heck of it. See. Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is so weird. I had to pull my mic out. Now I'm not speaking. I'm just speaking directly without headphones or anything.
Can you hear me though?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, you cut out for a second and then you came back and you couldn't hear me.
Yeah. But anyway, I know it always fascinates me sometimes when certain things happen at certain times.
Yeah.
But But anyway, so I was saying that these are things I saw firsthand, and so these aren't things that somebody told me. I was there, so I've known this family, them, and for over what 25 years, 20 something years. So I know, but what I will say is, and I kind of stayed out of it, I've been honest with you, I stayed out of it. But since you asked me, what I can tell people is that the original name of the company was the Fig Tree. That was the name of the company, the Fig Tree. The Fig Tree, I don't know how it's run right now, but what I can tell you is the person who made and still makes the true, real formula is Ma'a Bowman, the Fig Tree. And they come out of New York. I know. I know because I worked with them. I know where the true products are. And if you listen to old talks, if anybody had put up any of the old interviews or old talks with Sebi at the time, you would hear him always say that Ma'a is the one that is the phenomenal one that makes the products.
that does that. So there's a lot of confusion and deception that I happen to run into and see on the internet and on YouTube, and I am amazed. I guess in a way I shouldn't be, at people and their behavior and how comfortable we can become with lying, with lies. That's what I have to say. But I can tell you this: that is the original formula. And why is it the original formula? Because while Sebi was out doing much of the speaking and doing all of that, somebody had to make it, and they were making it. That is the original formula, and that is it's the fig tree, and they're out of New York. That's who Dr. Sebi was married to. They started this together. Those two people started this together,
So
came
it's
up with
so it's
this.
fig tree and ma'a,
It's the fig tree,
the fig tree.
and it's Maa Ma'a Bowman, which Sabi's name was Alfredo Bowman. But that's they started this together. They started it together.
And it's in out of New York.
She's in New York. They're New York and Florida. Still, I mean, but she's in New York. I mean, she's, the office. She sees people out of New York, and and she doesn't get on air, and she doesn't go on and on about it because, but she just said, okay, in time, all things will come to light.
Right.
And this is my first time even saying anything about it, but you asked, and I just kind of felt like, you know what? You need to say something because I know them that well. They've stayed at my house. I know them. These aren't just people I've heard of. I knew these people, and I still know them. Know Ma, and worked with them. So
Well,
yeah,
thank you so much for that. I know a lot of people have been thinking about that, and especially me. And the whole thing when he died, there was a lot of controversy over who took over the recipe, and there was a lot of strife, and nobody really knew what to do, and claims of,
yeah,
the causing adverse reactions for people and such. And
because it's not the original formula is one. There's one people that make it, and it's that group. It's the fig tree, that because that was the original name. It's Ma'a Bowman and his children with her. They were always making it. They were always making it, and so they know what the original proportions are. The original formula is, and she sees people. As a matter of fact, I just talked to her a couple of days ago. Because I'm going to do an interview with her. But yeah, that's it right there, people.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. It's good to have somebody that was there and actually knows what's going on. So the other question that I had to ask you, or wanted to ask you, was basically, is our greatest enemy really ourselves? And of course, the answer is for me is that we are our own greatest enemy, and we're our own greatest ally as well. But how do you see people facing themselves as their own enemy, considering the programming? Because obviously, there's people that just want to blame it on other people. They want to say this wasn't my fault the way I am, and they want to basically relinquish their own responsibility and say that they're become a pure victim within the program. And what would you say to those people who want to just blame it on the Illuminati or the big bankers or even bigger control systems above them, instead of really taking responsibility for yourself and getting your thoughts, emotions, and actions in line?
Well, facing yourself, owning the truth about yourself. I think sometimes people run from that because it's too much to look at. But if we
Absolutely.
face ourselves without blaming and regret. And that's why people run from it, because they think that they have to then blame and regret. No, this is simply being honest with one's self. That's why in the Matrix there's that line, know thyself. This is why know thyself becomes the core, the root of our evolution. Know thyself, meaning one must be honest with ourselves about who we are. This doesn't mean you're going to blame yourself and you're going to have regret and you're going to have guilt and you're going to have shame. This has nothing to do with that. This has to do with acknowledging, okay, these are the choices I made. Yes, this is what I did. This is who I was at that moment, but I am not that person now. I am evolving beyond that. But first you have to accept that this is who I was in order to be something different. And you don't have to run from yourself by putting it off on someone else, by blaming someone else. Just look at the choices you made, and the choices are generally attached to some belief about yourself. So I think it's just that, it's just that simple. It's okay. It's okay. Whatever you did, good, bad, and indifferent, we've all done things in our lives, and where we'd rather maybe not say anything to anybody about it, but we all have something or an experience that we've had or things that we've done, and you have to just come to grips with it. That is who I was then. I acted according to what I understood and what I believed about myself then, but now I understand more, and that's it. And I'm ready to move beyond that kind of thinking or belief.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have another interview at 11:30, like in another 15 minutes.
Do you want to take a break, or do you want to close it out right now then?
I will have to, because the interview is going to be in like a few minutes.
Okay. So, thank you so much for being on the show with us, Sonia. Is there any events that you're going to next? Any plugs that you want to do for another upcoming workshop or anything like that?
I do. I can't remember the name of the conference. So I'm going to Sedona in September, because this is new and they haven't. It's the site it's all up with everything, but they haven't given me a banner. But I'll have it on my website. But I'll be back in Sedona to speak in September. I can't remember the name of the conference right now, but it'll be on my website. If you don't see it today, I'll make sure that I put something there at least tomorrow. And what else am I doing? There's another conference too, but that's in God, I always want to say Russia. it's another country. But I think I'll be just coming in from. I think I'm just going to be doing it virtually. And that'll be on the site as well. I think that's the end of July. And I do a yearly retreat, but that retreat is booked up now. So they can find out more about the yearly retreats that I do by going to therealsoniabarrett.com. And I think I will be in New York speaking. I'm going to do a 4-hour workshop in New York on Saturday, June 2nd. So I don't know when you're going to post this, but yeah, that information should be up tomorrow or so as well. But June 2nd is in New York.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for having us, Sonia. I wish you luck in all your endeavors, and I look forward to all your upcoming work, public and private. And have a great day, and enjoy the rest of the the things you got lined up.
All right. Thank you so much, Danielle. You have an awesome weekend too, and thanks again.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye.
All right, everybody. So that was Sonia Barrett at therealsoniabarrett.com. This has been another episode of Rejuvelation. Thank you, and good night.
Just a minute, I know that it'll surface, so let me just hang out for the night. It serves a purpose. lets me take a break, and I might not think it's worthless in the morning. I can fight it, in the morning I'll rewrite it. Shh, I don't wanna talk right now. Got enough to think about, heads in the clouds. I don't even wanna think right now. Got enough to worry about, gotta keep it down. Got the same thing lingering around my mind. Alarms are gone off, so it's about time. Got the same thing lingering around my mind. Alarms are gone off, so it's about